Year-end fundraising season is coming up, and since it's like the Super Bowl of fundraising opportunities, you're probably getting ready to prepare, right? I hope so. In today's video, I want to walk you through 5 steps to plan your year-end fundraising campaign. These are the exact same steps that I've used on campaigns that have raised as much as $5 million in the month of December. Let's get started. Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa Lockshin. I'm the president of the Storytelling Nonprofit. So before we dive into this tutorial, you probably guessed that I'm an advocate in storytelling in all kinds of fundraising campaigns. And to help you out as you prepare for your next fundraising campaign, I've put together the Storytelling Success Checklist to help you tell great stories in your campaigns. If you'd like to grab this, you can get the link right below this video in the description box. Okay, let's talk about planning your fundraising campaign. My first step in this process is to map out the basics. And this is really the foundational step in any kind of planning for fundraising campaigns. We want to make sure that we know what we're raising money for. So really thinking about, are we making a targeted ask for a specific program or service, or are we making more of a general operating ask to our donor base? What's our goal that's associated with this campaign? It's so important to set a really tangible goal so that donors understand how they can help and what that money can be used towards. Bonus, it's also great because you can give people updates throughout the campaign about your progress towards that goal, which can be super motivating for donors. You're also going to want to think about who are you going to ask during this campaign. So if you have a larger donor base, I would say over several thousand people, this is where you probably want to get into segmenting and thinking about, are we going to target certain groups of donors in a specific way, online, offline, anything like that. You'll also want to really think about what channels you're going to use. This decision will impact so much of what you do in the rest of the planning process. So thinking about, are we going to send letters in the mail? Are we going to send emails? Are we going to really ramp up our major gift efforts and asks at the end of the year? Really taking the time to think about what each of those things are and how you're planning on asking your audience is a really great place to start. The second step in this process is to build out your calendar. Now, I really like to do this early on in the planning process because it allows me to get an overview of what's happening when, and then I can kind of work back from everything that's happening. So I like to grab a calendar. Sometimes I'll print one off from my computer, or if I have one on my wall somewhere, I'll use that. I like to start with the appeal dates first. So I write in everything that I know is going out, whether it's direct mail, email, other types of asks, anything that I know is happening in the month of December during that year-end campaign. I put that on the calendar first and foremost. I also then like to layer in any non-ask communications, which, yes, this should definitely be part of your plan in December. You can't just be constantly asking. There has to be some cultivation pieces as well. So I like to think about what those are and how I'm going to time those out given the asks that I want to put out to our audience. And finally, also being able to include any stewardship touch points. So maybe you have a process where you send out a thank you letter immediately after someone makes a donation, in which case you're probably not going to put that on your calendar, but let's say you want to organize something like a thankathon where you're making lots of phone calls to donors one day and pulling in your board members or your volunteers to do that. You probably want to get that on the calendar so you can make sure you have people organized for that. Now, if you want to really build out your calendar a little bit more broadly, one of the other things you can do is also put any production dates on there as well. So by production dates, I mean things like the day your letter needs to get to the mail house, the day your letter is going in the mail, the dates that you need to have email copy written by. Anything like that that's associated with the production of a piece, that can be really helpful to have on a calendar as well. Step number 3 is to create your master task list of everything that needs to get done. Now, I've talked about this once before in another tutorial I have called How to Run a Successful Fundraising Campaign, which I'll link here too if you'd like to watch that. But I find that this is a really critical step for any type of fundraising campaign, year-end or otherwise. I like to write down every single thing that needs to get done, which can take a little bit of time. So give yourself a good hour or so to really block out some time to do some brainstorming and figuring out everything that has to get done, from writing copy to proofing emails to checking links in the emails to make sure they work, to copy editing your donation page, laying out direct mail letters. Any of these small tasks should get into your master task list so that you really have a clear idea of everything that needs to get done from start to finish of this campaign. Step number 4 is to set your metrics and benchmarks. I like to do this early on in planning out my year-end fundraising campaign because it really gives me a way to track the progress as we go. Sure, the year-end campaign might really be 1 month, so 31 days in December, but it's really useful to be able to kind of give yourself some benchmarks to see how your progress is stacking up to campaigns you've run in years past. So things that I like to look at are, kind of average email open rates, click-through rates, amount raised per email are some examples for digital that I'll look at. For direct mail, I'll also look at things like response rates and timing of those things, average gift size for direct mail. All of these metrics are really helpful. I also, in December, will do things like look at how much money did we raise by December 15th? How much money did we raise by December 25th? How much money did we raise by the 31st? Just to kind of give myself some historical benchmarks to see, like, what did we do in the past and how can we make sure that we're on track or maybe even exceeding those benchmarks in this year's campaign. The other reason I like to have metrics and benchmarks in place is because if we're not on track, it gives me a chance to enact a backup plan if necessary. And I'll tell you, this is something I always have in place for any kind of campaign, fundraising, communications, or otherwise. I like to know what we're going to do if things are not on track. What can we do to help move forward a little bit more and hopefully keep ourselves on track towards those goals? And finally, the last step that I have for you is to start executing. And I always tell people to give themselves more time than they think they're going to need to execute everything from that master task list that we talked about in step 3. I think it's so important to make sure that you start executing early. It takes time to write copy for emails and direct mail letters. It takes time to get things set up in your email tool. And I will also say, inevitably, there's other things that crop up that may not be related to your campaign that need to get done. And so giving yourself that extra space, that extra time to do those things is so valuable. So those are my 5 steps to help you plan your year-end fundraising campaign. I hope you found this helpful. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know what you're doing to plan for your campaign this year. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribe to my channel for more weekly fundraising and communications tips.